The title is The Last President, and I think it might have something to do with that time travel book with Barron Trump and his adventures, but he does look like the cartoon character. So I'm open-minded. I'm not making a decision until later when we find out what's going on. To Paul's point, in order to be responsible, or as the Canadians might say, able to respond, that's a thing. We got to learn about the strange prophecies surrounding Trump. Now, we covered a little bit of the red heifer rumor mill, rumint, last week. Now we're going to get some humant this week from Really Graceful. And then we do have a little Timcast. Don't throw stuff through the chat. He's talking about the FBI rigging the 2020 election, and he's pretty succinct about it. So like we can listen to it, and then we'll see what the Beanie Dude has to say. And then we'll come back and we'll discuss, because that's what this show discusses after we play clips. That's what we do. All right. So Colby, taking it away. Let's go to Really Graceful. The title is The Last President, and I think it might have something to do with that time travel book with Barron Trump and his adventures, but he does look like the cartoon character. So I'm open-minded. I'm not making a decision until later when we find out what's going on.
Hey, Internet friends. Remember those weird books from the 1800s predicting that Donald Trump would be the last president of the United States? Well, that certain line of predictive programming seems a little more likely with each passing day. Since Trump has been in office, he's repeatedly hinted at the possibility of running for a third term as U.S. president. But of course, this idea is directly in conflict with the U.S. Constitution, because following Roosevelt's 4 terms in office, the 22nd Amendment was enacted in 1951 and declares unequivocally that no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Meaning that the Constitution prohibits Trump from running for office again in 2028 because he was elected in 2016. But Trump has stated that he is serious about considering a third term in spite of this. But I just wanted to direct your attention to the script writers, what was allegedly written long ago, and I want to know what you think.
Ingersoll Lockwood was an American lawyer and writer based in New York. His father was a military man and close friend of Henry Clay, a U.S. representative, senator, Speaker of the House, and Secretary of State, who helped found the National Republican Party and Whig Party. Henry Clay's nickname was the Great Compromiser, the master of the art of the deal for his time. Apparently, Ingersoll Lockwood was a big fan of Clay too, because he wrote a poem for Clay adorning him with the Lockwood last name and referring to him as a brother. Both Clay and Ingersoll Lockwood are on record as Freemasons, which I only bring up in connection to the occult elements throughout their lives and works. Ingersoll Lockwood's friends weren't the only ones who were politically connected, as he was appointed consul to the Kingdom of Hanover, the 4th largest state in the German Confederation, by none other than President Abraham Lincoln. Ingersoll Lockwood's children's books about a character commonly called Little Baron Trump, his dog Bulger, and their marvelous underground adventures detail the adventures of a wealthy boy living in Castle Trump. And his journey consists of traveling to Russia, depicting a world within a world which the young Baron explores with his dog Bulger, using a guidebook provided by the master of all masters named Don. Not even Baron's parents know where Baron was born, but he's constantly bringing up how big his brain is and manages to come up with a personalized insult for most folks he meets. And his adventures take him underground, underneath the Ural Mountains in Russia, much in the style of Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland.
FBI imposed gag order on analyst who told Twitter Hunter Biden laptop story was real. The FBI silenced an employee who tried to tell Twitter the Hunter Biden laptop story was real on the day it came out, newly released chat logs show. On October 14th, 2020, the day the New York Post first reported on the Hunter Biden laptop, the FBI told employees do not discuss the Biden matter and imposed a gag order on an analyst who tried to confirm the story's veracity to Twitter during a meeting, according to chat logs released by the House Judiciary Committee. An FBI official with the Bureau's Foreign Influence Task Force, Laura Demlow, previously testified that an analyst on call with Twitter confirmed the laptop was real before an attorney for the FBI told the social media platform it would not comment further. The chat logs show FBI personnel deliberating on how to handle the laptop situation. One FBI official instructed the rest to not discuss the Biden matter, and subsequent messages reiterated that order.
So Baron Trump, I don't know. Last president, I don't know. I do think coupling that with last week's Red Heifer and Raiders of the Lost Ark and CIA psychics and all that nonsense that they're painting out around that subject, I just think that there's probably something more to be learned there, but we didn't learn from what they've done so far. And really graceful. Grace had also mentioned the Michael Rothschild, right? That was in that video we just watched about the Baron Trump. And I thought, I do have a Michael Rothschild book. If you guys aren't familiar with the fine writings of Michael Rothschild, he wrote the book Jewish Space Lasers, Rothschilds and 200 Years of Conspiracy Theories. See how he has like the menorah, like acting like lasers. It's hilarious, right? He's like from the Midwest. He's not related to the banking family. He just has that last name. So he kind of poo-poos on the whole history of that international banking dynasty. And he didn't read the autobiographies and biographies of the people who lived in that family. Obviously, he just wanted to poke fun at it and sell a book. That's good because he sells books. And then I also, of course, while you're there, they have a couple extra products that go with the book. So I got T-shirts for me and Kurt. And we also got the patch because this is, let me zoom in on it, an official Space Laser Corps patch in the Mazel Tov squad. And on the back, it is anti-Semitism. It's a fundraiser for anti-Semitism before the news this week. This has been going on quite a while, apparently. So we'll get to that story later, but just so you know where you can get it, it's Amazon. Amazon has all this good stuff. Now, Tim Pool pointed out, FBI, doing some deep state skullduggery. Do you think it's just the FBI? Or do you think there's other maybe deep state entity that's been taking over our country for like 100 years using the FBI like a rubber glove or some sort of prophylactic to mess around and, cover up a Hunter Biden laptop, cover up WikiLeaks and Pizzagate and all that stuff back in the day? They've been covering stuff up for a long time. We're going to learn about the intelligence state and its cozy connections with other stories that we have. But opening it up to Tease and Scott, first off, because you guys know all about the deep state. Tease has made lots of conspiracy synergy, teaching people step by step in a fun, animated, upbeat way about the deep state and these sort of entities. So go ahead. You guys have the floor.
What's the question? Just like rip on the deep state as a general like back and forth rap between all of us? Or
you can. When did you first learn about the deep state? I'll do the interview thing.
Oh man, like I first got into all of this initially dabbling into it through Zeitgeist, and then that spiraled to finding Corbett, and through that and then you were just like a monolithic figure of forensic historical research that we can all delve into, and then it's just been kind of tiptoeing a slippery slope of the insanity that is reality to try and differentiate what is or isn't and then make sense of all of it. So it's one of those things where the deep state is a labyrinthian sort of, I like the way you put it, entity, because at a certain point it's just a chain of obedience for everyone who's willing to sell their soul to it. And so it's congruent to the state of kind of just imposing the state of mind to reflect on the piece of art that you put out, Rich.
What about you, Scott? He took your answer. He took your answer, I know.
Yeah, well, literally, yeah. When I learned about Tower 7 on Zeitgeist in like 2011 maybe or something like that, and I was always kind of more like, I grew up, my dad was conservative, and he made me listen to I got to listen to like Michael Savage growing up, and so I kind of was like, just normie Republican stuff.
So like really Rush Limbaugh type of, because I only know Savage from, he was on Alex Jones a couple times years ago.
Yeah, I really resonated with Michael Savage. Like he said some good stuff.
What did he do? What was in his show that he did that you liked?
Well, one of his books that he wrote was called
Savage Nation.
Savage Nation, but he has another one called Liberalism is a Mental Disorder. And
jeez.
And he would always riff off of that, and I was like, yeah, stupid liberals, dude. So ever since I was a little kid, I learned how dumb liberals were.
It's only because the reappropriation of the word, because liberal means free.
Exactly.
It means as a noun in Latin a book, and as a verb in Latin to free, and you free yourself by reading books and having enough what they called leisure time back in the day. And most of the smart people who had books and libraries had slaves in order to do that. So it's like a unique opportunity in world history that people who aren't slaves have access to books, and we can read, and they don't kill us for it. They still have question marks on our keyboards. Like, we still can win this game.
Yeah,
so far.
That's one of my favorite quotes here, by the way. Hey, as long as we have a question mark on our keyboard, we can still learn our way forward, right? But so Zeitgeist led me to Massimo Mazzucco's film September 11th, The New Pearl Harbor, because I was incredulous and I had to learn more about this whole 9/11 thing. And that just blew it wide open. I realized, wow, everything I knew was kind of like a sham. And then I started listening to other podcasts around like 2016, 2017. I really got into podcasting at this job I had. And yeah, man. And then, okay, so another element to it as well is, you know, in my former life, when I was getting in trouble with the law, I saw the inner workings of that whole system, you know, being actually locked up and seeing the corruption from the inside. I mean, that realized
Prisons
that
for
whole
profit are a real thing. I learned
Yep.
about that from Kevin Booth.
Yep.
Yeah.
And how like the guards are the ones that bring in the drugs. And it's like the whole system is corrupt from top to bottom. You know, that was what I needed at the time, and I'm very grateful for it. So I have some nuanced opinions about all that because, you know, if you want to change, that's a really good way to snap you back to reality. But, you know, they also create conditions where people get so comfortable there that they don't want to change and they like it there. They prefer it there. And so they get out only long enough to commit enough crime to get sent back. So it's broken. So there's no rehabilitation in there, none whatsoever. And so, but anyway, so I saw this interesting form of corruption and it just all kind of just disillusioned me for a long time, which led me towards like more, eventually I landed on Peace Revolution. Your last episode of Peace Revolution, your most recent one about libertarianism, that was my first introduction to libertarian philosophy and all that stuff. And I went down that rabbit hole, and then I've kind of refined my views as far as that goes a little bit. And it's just like, yeah, and it's just really been an amazing journey. Yeah.
TC, ever listen to Peace Revolution?
Oh man, I've caught chunks of many of them, but I have not made my way through all of them.
That's
Yeah.
very respectable. You need to say no more. You're not supposed to like have listened to all of them, but you have enough familiarity with what I was laying down. For people in the audience who might not know, I used to do several other podcasts before this. Peace Revolution 83. If you haven't listened to a Peace Revolution episode and you're not interested in episode 23, where it's like how to learn anything, the occulted keys to learning, or, you know, the next episode I'll show you. This is a good one. This is about Operation Gladio. This is about they, them, those who are still in control and how they got to be in control and all the types of terrorism they've committed while they've been in control. And it has all sorts of juicy links and references and all that good stuff that go along with it. And then for those who might be looking for something more, you know, heady, I've got this one called Peace Revolution 8, Parrhesia. It's a curriculum for intellectual self-defense. And many more where those came from. But it's really just documenting the history of the deep state and the New World Order and the people, you know, that can easily be named. And it's a collection of artifacts and evidence that show that it's real and not a conspiracy theory. And, you know, some of those episodes are 20 hours long because there's a lot of proof.
I love that, dude. I love that. And another thing, too, if you're an OG GTW listener, Tony Meyer's in a lot of them, and then Paul's in a lot of them. And so it's like, dude, it's amazing. It's just like, yeah. Trip down memory lane.
Just mentioned.
Yeah, you are. Hey, what's up, Paul? When did you learn about the deep state?
Well, I was one of those dumb liberals in Western Canada that Scott was talking about. Total supporter of the NDP, which is like the leftist party, up until 2002, and then the 9/11 happened, the Iraq War happened. And I happen to have a dad who's Muslim, and he's like, I don't think Osama bin Laden had anything to do with weapons of mass destruction. I don't think Saddam Hussein has anything to do with 9/11. And I was like, oh, that's confusing. And my brother lent me a book called Alice in Wonderland and the World Trade Center Disaster. And I decided to go on a little trip to Texas with a friend of mine. And at the border, we were stopped and searched, and they questioned me for like 3 hours about this book. It was a David Icke book. And I was reading it for fun, was never expecting this kind of treatment. And that kind of woke me up to like, why would they take this book so seriously? And one thing led to another. And slowly I started to learn about this grander conspiracy and was looking for answers by the time 2006 rolled around. And that's when I came across Project Constellation, which is Rich's first piece that he put out there, and made contact with him. And that kind of helped center the direction I went in with my films Hijacking Humanity and all the work that we did together in the late 2000s. But the biggest thing I realized the deep state does is it takes people and tries to go after their magical thinking. I was a magical thinker when I first met Richard Grove, and I was very much into all sorts of spiritual woo-woo stuff, and a lot of it not grounded in reality. I didn't yet know about logical fallacies, hadn't learned about the trivium. And through getting to know him and all the research that we started uncovering and coming into contact with, I learned about the trivium, I learned about logical fallacies, and slowly started regrowing that critical side of my brain and the magical thinking side, which is the creative side. You need it. It started to balance out, and it's taken some time, but you realize that the deep state, their whole thing is to get everyone as amped up as possible, right? The reason there's so many outrage clicks on the internet is because if someone can get you into a heightened emotional state, you stay engaged. This is just like part of human psychology. And so when it comes to reinforcing like tribalism, the deep state, they don't care about the sides necessarily. They just want people to be stuck in that heightened emotional state where they're either directing their anger at whichever boogeyman that they want at the time, or going out and buying products, or whatever it is to distract away from the actual levers of power being pulled by these career bureaucrat slash bankster slash think tank people. And yeah, they just stay in the position of power long after presidents come and go. They people like Fauci can be in power from the 80s up until 2020.
Well, and then that's such a good point, man. Now, it's funny, Rich. I talked to somebody the other day who knows your work pretty well, who said, "Wait a minute, Richard was a whistleblower?" I was like, "Yeah, dude." So I think everyone would like to hear a summation of your awakening to the deep state, because it's pretty epic.
Oh, that's a long story, and I was about to intro to another block. So let me catch up on these notes real quick. First off, what we're talking about is healthy dopamine from learning things instead of being oppressed and depressed from the New World Order. And then at some point, Paul, we need to get together our unfinished film collection, because you and I both have films that aren't finished. I was a whistleblower in 2003 through 2006 because I had to represent myself in court. I blew the whistle on people that were embracing corruption. And we have 2020 hindsight. I could just play you a clip. Twice a year, I teach a course called Autonomy. It's a 12-week course. It teaches leadership, entrepreneur skills, executive skills, all these types of things that I saw were taken out of our education system in order to make the schooling or indoctrination system that we've all probably went through. And it has served us well enough to be interchangeable cogs in the machine of the globalists. But if we want a homestead, if we want write our own ticket, work from home job, work from anywhere type of situation, they're not exactly handing those out at the end of college. They give you a piece of paper and they're like, good luck. So reality is dropping us off here, but the demands of reality are up here. So I created Autonomy to help people close that gap for themselves so they can level up their skills to the demands of the situations that life is putting in front of us presently. Life's demands of intellect and understanding precision and complexity are ever increasing. The schooling didn't prepare us for it. The media is not going to do anything but reinforce what schooling prepared us for. And so we're going to have to take a leadership position and take steps off the beaten path to kind of blaze our own trail in life. What makes the Grand Theft World podcast unique, invigorating, exciting, and informative? Most other podcasts out there are either doing straight up interviews or they're just covering the daily news. They're covering current events from the day they happened. And that is effective. It's useful. It's a great starting point. And then sometimes these current events change during the week past the first story. So we like to give it a little time. You have to wait till some of the dust settles on these stories in order to give them accurate coverage. And the other thing that's really missing in the media landscape is covering the articles that are coming out every day. That's great. That's necessary. But who's bringing in contextual history so that you can understand what has been going on for decades and decades to lead up to the machinations and actions that we see unfolding today? So what we do here on the podcast is we cover current events. Many of these things are censored, but we wait about a week. As a forensic historian, I focused mainly through my career on the history of globalism and collectivism and things that they call maybe the New World Order. there's a lot of facts to these sort of circumstances, groups, events, activities, working groups that they've had over time. So for Grand Theft World listeners, we not only break down the current events, most of which that are censored during the week, we provide you with contextual history, we give you the source notes, the references, we do deep dives, and this really empowers you with an understanding of context and history so that you can make more informed decisions in your life. There's also a community, a membership where you guys can actually ask questions and we can get into the show and we can share evidence. And there's a town hall weekly for Grand Theft World for those who listen to it and are interested in covering the stories that we don't get to during a 6-hour show. Listening to it an hour a day, you could easily consume the week's news, but you're going to have substance and meaning and context and understanding. And with that, you can make higher quality decisions in your life. So if you're interested in more quality in your life, go to grandtheftworld.com, click podcast at the top, and we'll see you there. Thank you.
These allegations are false.
This isn't Grand Theft Auto, folks. This isn't a video game.
What are the most surprising things that you discovered once you started pulling on that thread? Who he was connected to, what institutions he was influential over, what events he participated in?
Come on, man. What are we talking about? Come on, man. No.
You don't have to think about it, dude.
I got this quote because you said you didn't know much about Klaus Schwab. I made it my job to, as soon as this happened, I'm like, okay, this guy's their front man. Let me learn about the official history of the World Economic Forum. I got their 40-year history. I got every book that Klaus Schwab has written or ghostwritten. I went through those books. This is one of the most interesting passages.
Come on, man. Come on.